Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Cindy Chavez here. Today is Wednesday, March the 14th, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for the day. And we're doing a very, very happy week this week. Everything's been happy. Even when things aren't happy, they're still happy because they're always happy. That's just, it's the rule, it's the law. And you know, you're not allowed to do anything else on LOA Today. So how's your happy day going, Cindy?
My happy day is going really well. I love the way you said that. You're not allowed to do anything else.
That's right.
It is a law. You know that when you said that, I thought about synchronicities and how they're always happening. We just don't always notice.
This is
so
true.
There's always the opportunity for us to find happiness, even when we're not feeling it. So,
especially when we're not feeling it. That's when we need it the most.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's it.
Yeah.
I've all day long, even yesterday with talking to a client and talking to my son, I was doing the make the legal U-turn.
Oh, yes, right.
Make the legal U-turn.
Well,
That's
even Tom and I did that last night because we had our Tuesday night podcast last night. And the last couple times he and I had tried to dive into one of the Seth books, and it was so dense and it was so, you know, heavy plotting, working through it, and not much in the way of stories, that he decided we were going to just do a U-turn and stop doing the book and do something else instead, which was probably a good decision.
Right.
You know?
It makes me think of that whole you can't have a happy ending to an unhappy journey.
Right.
And I know lots of us, whenever I hear that, I think, no, well, I mean, I've had happy experiences finally happen, but I think it's more because the U-turn was made. You know, if you're struggling in a direction and it's just not working, sometimes the best thing to do is make that U-turn.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah. Not always the easiest thing to make, but it's good to get into the practice of doing it. And that's really what it comes down to, I think, because we practice that every morning and every afternoon in the podcast. And individually, we practice it in our lives whenever we can remember to do it. But let's be honest, we all forget at some point, you know. Sometimes we just forget that, yeah, we got to do that legal U-turn. So I would say, first of all, congratulations. You made the U-turn. So that's like one of your wins for the week right there.
Yeah. You know, there's been times when you talk about that, it reminds me of working behind the scenes on tech stuff, or working on the computer, working on, you know, building a website or something, and you've set aside the time to do it and you're committed and you go in and like, it's just one glitchy thing after another. And I finally learned when that happens to just get up and walk away and go do something else. And often I come back and everything just works fine. It's just like, I don't know what that is, but you know, it's learning how to let go of it and go take a walk before you've struggled for an hour, right?
Yes.
Before you're totally frustrated.
Exactly.
Earlier.
Yes. Oh, yes.
How far into that neighborhood do you need to get before you realize you should have turned around, right?
This is a bad neighborhood. Why am I even staying here? Yeah, it's very true. By the way, there's another win that we got to mention. We got an email from Kim in Australia, from down under, Sydney, Australia. And she says she's a big listener of the podcast, loves the show, and she's thrilled that there are so many podcasts. She says she actually asked her inner being which ones to listen to.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Isn't that great? I love that.
Yeah.
And she named a number of the co-hosts. She named you. She says she loves how you deal with negative things and your way of acknowledging them and way of processing them. She says she struggles with that. Just tries to run away. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
Running away is often a good first step. You just don't want to make it the last step. That's all.
Well, you know, I mean, sometimes it's the best thing is to let it go for that time.
Yeah.
But you know how I feel about that. I really feel like that we're here to experience everything. And so the contrast is all part of it. And, you know, I even will go over to the side of figuring out a way to enjoy it. Because we go back to that polarity and the idea of the stick, you know, the two ends of the same stick. And so if you've got attachment on one side and aversion on the other, so it's that thing you want on one side and that thing you do not want on the other. Mm-hmm. If we can allow ourselves to embrace that thing we're resisting, then all the resistance leaves. Because if we're embracing that thing we're resisting, we're also no longer attached to that thing we think we need to have so much. And it's not an easy thing to do, but it's something we can practice. So
I guess part of it too is we're trying to get rid of the power of it by kind of confronting it directly and facing it and saying, okay, what are you? Because once we look at it, the power diminishes for most of those kinds of things. Not necessarily all of them, but for most of them.
I wish I could remember. I'm tongue-tied this morning. Florence Scovel Shen has a great quote about fear and about if you walk up to the lion will run away. You know, it's like the thing that you're fearing until you face it and realize that a lot of times, most of the time, that thing that we fear the most doesn't come to pass. You know, the thing that we fear the most isn't as bad as we think it is. And the more we avoid it, the more resistance we cause. So on the other hand, make the U-turn if you're, feeling wise. If you keep pushing to do something that's not feeling good, make the U-turn.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a reason why they call fear an acronym. FEAR, false evidence appearing real. That's the reason. Yeah. Because it is false evidence, and 9 times out of 10, there's nothing to it.
Yeah, nothing to it.
You know?
Or at least it's not what you think it is.
Yeah.
You know, we are really good sometimes. We humans are really good at getting really worked up over things.
Oh. I'm actually an expert at it. I have a degree in it. So, whenever you want to hire a professional worry wart, just contact me.
Okay. Hey,
No,
my mother, may she rest in peace, I've often said that she had a degree in worrying. Boy, could she worry. Oh my goodness. And sometimes when I catch myself worrying, I'm like, okay, no, this is what you learned from mom, because she was really good at it.
Well, I have to admit, I only have a bachelor's in worrying. There are people who do have doctorates.
Yes. She had a PhD. Oh, bless her. She had good intentions, and I
think we all do, one way or another. That there are a lot of people who have a lot different viewpoints from what I have. I mean, dramatically different, different interests. I mean, I've often mentioned that there are people who they love things like war, and I have no love for war at all. But there are people who love that whole environment. They love the military discipline. They love the camaraderie and the patriotism, and they love taking out the enemy. They love that whole thing. Nowhere near anything that I like. I mean, I really don't like that at all, but they do. And you know what? Their intentions are good. They may be completely different intentions from what mine are, but they're still good. It's not like they're trying to be mean people. They're not interested in that necessarily. That's just the way they look at life.
Yeah, that's one of the things I try to always remember is to always assume positive intent in any situation, because every behavior has some kind of positive intent. Now, it may be kind of messed up, right? but down underneath, usually the intention is something that's not a bad intent. And so I try to remember that too. That helps.
Wendy was actually talking about that yesterday. She was talking about how in the 2016 election cycle, she watched all the debates between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And first of all, I congratulated her for surviving that. But
yeah, I did too. It was rough.
I mean, I wasn't going to watch them because I was very much in the middle of my move away from politics phase. So there was absolutely no way I was going to watch them. But she managed to watch them in a way where she was just seeing sympathetically that while their viewpoints were entirely different, they were both coming from a position of good. And I thought, wow, give her credit for that. That was really good, because that's literally, she said, all that she focused on. She didn't allow herself to focus on their positions on the issues, what the issues were they were talking about. She was only focusing on what were they as human beings projecting. And wow, that's really great self-discipline to do that. I'm just in awe of her sometimes.
Right? That would not be most people's take.
No, not at all.
Or most people's perspective, right? It's right. Like we don't come into things like that usually. But when we do, I know one time I heard Wendy talking about, and I liked her metaphor, just looking down on, and we were both talking about that. I had mentioned stepping back. I've actually had clients before take a physical step back when they need to, when things get heavy and hard to deal with, especially in a relationship situation, maybe in a conversation or a situation, maybe at work, whatever. And I've actually said, here's something you can do. take a step back, like so small and imperceptible that no one else will notice you're doing it. Very tiny little step, but it's a reminder to yourself to step back and look at this from a broader perspective. Just take a breath and step back a little bit. And she was talking about looking at it from above, looking down on it like a map. It's like that perspective of I'm way up here now and I'm looking down. How does this look from this perspective? And
right. Yeah.
We don't often just naturally do that, right? We have to make that intention, but that's what I feel like maybe she was doing with that debate, is coming into it from a totally different perspective and say intentionally, deliberately saying, I'm just going to look at it from this perspective, which is kind of cool.
And I say more power to her. I mean,
I didn't watch the debate that way.
You didn't know. Well, at least you're honest about it.
I think I might have been screaming at the TV at some point.
So did the TV survive the debate?
Yes.
It did.
Yes.
So the shoes that you threw at it, nothing went wrong with the TV. That's good to hear.
Yeah, everything was fine.
So, well, once again, of course, it always ties into the topic. And today's topic, we're continuing with the book, The Money and the Law of Attraction, and we're in part 1, and the subsection is about the power of thoughts. And the first thing that I thought of when I saw that topic today was a conversation I had on Facebook yesterday with actually 2 different conversations with 2 different people, both of whom were focusing on negative thoughts, and both of whom were denying that negative thoughts have any power. They just create things that happen to them. So the topic was, well, some things, bad things just happen. And as soon as I saw this, I said, wow, I should have reproduced this topic for them. I should have just taken this and copied and pasted it. Because power of thoughts is just as applicable to negative as it is to positive. It's one of the reasons why I'm so admiring of Wendy being able to keep herself in that positive vein looking at the debates. Because I know how powerful negative thoughts are. And
right.
I mean, when I look back at my own journey, I guess you'd call it, of first discovering LOA and then learning how it applied, I remember very early on getting this idea of the power of all thoughts, not just the ones that we want to come true, but all of them, and being just absolutely blown away with how many negative thoughts I had and wondering, how the heck am I going to overcome all of these? So when I read somebody saying, well, bad things happen and they have nothing to do with you, I thought to myself, did you and I study the same principle?
Yeah. Well, I think that sometimes, and we talk about this all the time, so I always want to be careful to say, yeah, sometimes, we live in a world where things happen that don't feel good to us. And sometimes they happen. And sometimes they happen without any seemingly, power on our part or intention on our part.
Sure.
Yet to say that negative thoughts just don't have any power, wow, we got to look around and notice, and even notice in ourselves the kind of day we have when we're focused on negative thoughts.
Yeah.
As opposed to when we turn it around and start to find, the positive aspects of things like we talked about yesterday.
Right.
Because it definitely, if it has an effect on how I feel, I always think about that story that Mike Dooley told about when he was a kid, 10, 11, 12 years old, I think he said, and his a relative came to visit and stayed for a few weeks, and that the uncle or whoever he was kept saying, I feel tired. I'm so exhausted. I'm so exhausted. And how he said, after a few days of that, he, as a 12-year-old, was walking around saying, oh, I'm so exhausted. And his friend would say, want to come out and play? Oh, no, I'm too tired. I'm just too tired. And he said, even as a kid, like it hit him, wait a minute. What's wrong with me? Like, I'm not usually tired. It's just been since I've been hanging out here with this guy, who's walking around. So it can be contagious, right? Our energy, our viewpoint, our thoughts, and our words. And he said, as soon as he stopped saying it, he wasn't feeling tired anymore. And the idea of, if I walked around all day, and some people do, right? With life is hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Life is hard.
Well, that's where I was 10 years ago. That's exactly where I was.
Well, how many people get taught that? I had somebody tell me, that was the motto that they were taught by their dad or whatever. It's like, look, kid, life is hard.
Right.
So, it's like, I know our parents sometimes have the best intentions. They want to prepare us. They don't want us to think that everything's always going to be easy because they don't want us to be disappointed. So they teach us hey, life is hard. You know, you just have to struggle through it. That's a motto that's setting us up for a lot of bad days, I think.
I remember from the movie The Secret, Jack Canfield doing his bit in it, talking about how just about everybody has their bad luck story, their bad story that happened to him, and for him growing up, he heard a lot of negativity. He starts naming some of the phrases, the catchphrases that his father had, like "Who do you think I am, Rockefeller?" That was one of his favorites, right? And then I love Jack's reaction to all those once he says, "Yeah, I had a whole bunch of those. You know, we've all gone through those, but so what?" I thought, wow, what a thing to say. So what?
So what? Right.
So what? Like, oh, wow. Talking about shifting a perspective quickly. Whew.
Well, you know, it's funny. I think that some of those things we hear when we're younger and don't pay attention or put a lot of stock in them or even consciously think about them too much. And then we get a little older and we realize that we've been living by those things, sort of in a not really conscious way. You know, it's not like we go through life repeating it to ourselves. Maybe we do, but sometimes it's just I've had people in a coaching session just have an aha moment about, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the thing. You know, when people bring something up and they're talking about it like that's just the way it is, right? Like if someone says to me, well, you know, relationships are hard. I mean, that's just the way it is. Relationships are difficult. And you have to work really hard to have a good one. And I had, you know, I've heard someone say to me before, you know, well, I mean, that's just how it is in relationships. You always have more bad days than good days.
Wow.
And they just kept talking, right? Like it was just so matter of fact, like the sky is blue, like everyone knows. And I recognized right away, oh, we've got some big time limiting beliefs here, right? So to say, hold on a second. But I just heard you say that relationships are hard and that there are a lot of hard work and that you're always going to have more bad days than good days. And I just want you to know that's not my experience. Oh, and then sometimes we can dig around and then we find out, yeah, it's like my mom used to always say, relationships are hard, relationships are hard. And so without even knowing it, sometimes we grow up with this whole set of rules that we're living by.
Well, I remember when Louise and I met, now, you have to keep in mind, we met when we were both in our 40s, so it was not like a young romance, right? But when we met, throughout my time before we met, I had never had any real success with dating relationships. Just nothing had ever worked out, not even close, not even for more than a couple months. And I had come to the conclusion that my big problem was that other people knew what I didn't know, which is that relationships are hard, and I always thought that they should be easy. That was one of the justifications I made to myself, that's why I wasn't hooked up with somebody. And it was not the only one, by far. I had a whole bunch of them, but that was one that came to mind. And then after I met Louise and we got together, and the relationship was easy. And I remember distinctly one night just talking with her and saying, I can hardly believe it. I can remember all my life hearing relationships are hard. They're hard. And I didn't believe it. And now I know it's true. I couldn't believe it. It's like, wow, it really is true. Relationships are easy. Yeah. But I was so inundated that I didn't know.
If they're working correctly, it's easy. You know, it's sort of like breathing, right?
Yeah.
I don't even think about breathing. For some people that may have a respiratory problem or asthma or something, breathing can be hard. But if you're healthy, if the relationship is healthy, then it's predominantly one of ease.
That's
just the way
key.
If my lungs are healthy and my respiratory system's healthy, breathing is easy. I don't really think about it.
Exactly right. That's it. It's a question of whether or not the relationship is easy. And that's probably the harder question for many people to answer. Is my relationship healthy?
Yeah. Well, talk about relationship. Let's talk about relationship first, though. Let's do some announcements, Walt.
Oh, yes, it's a good idea. First of all, the big announcement for the week is that the Sunday podcast is now moving to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday evenings. Doing it primarily so that Louise and I can get away for the weekend and not have to be waiting around for me to finish the podcast Sunday morning, but also because it gives us an opportunity to include more people who want to listen live. So if you're interested in listening to the Sunday podcast with David Bartkey and myself, We are now going to be doing it at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and you're more than happy, as usual, as with any of the podcasts, to hook in and join us through the Zoom platform. Just go to the homepage of the website, loatoday.net, and you'll see right where to do it. It's kind of hard to miss, really. It's right there. And so that's the big announcement of the week. Also, just kind of a side announcement, this book that we've been promising is in development. I was actually working very hard on it yesterday, writing some of my own stories to be included in it. And it's coming along nicely. I don't have a firm date as to when it's going to be out, but I am committed. It's going to be out before the end of this month. So keep tuned. You're going to get word on when you can get a free ebook copy of it. We are going to be announcing that. It's going to be a very narrow window of opportunity, but you're going to be able to do that. So, and of course, subscribe and share. We always want to put that in. Subscribe and share. It's right there on the homepage. Can't miss it.
Awesome. All right. Well, so we've been working our way through the money and the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. And I want to note, the cover of the book says money and the law of attraction, learning to attract wealth, health, and happiness.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover some more things than just money, but money is such a big sticking point for so many people. And it makes sense that it is, because in the world we live in, it pretty much takes money to do anything. And the more money we have, the more good we can do.
Just a quick side note I got to mention. I was listening to something from Abraham Hicks. I can't remember what the context was, other than it was one of their workshops. And I heard Esther, who was voicing Abraham, say, all right, now we want to take a little survey right now. Okay, we're going to take a survey. And she's not actually asking questions. You can tell she's scanning the audience, kind of taking a psychic reading of the audience. And okay, we're kind of averaging it out, and yes, all right. So what we're picking up from you guys is you guys want $10 million. And then she said, well, actually there are some of you who aren't asking for enough.
Huh?
And I thought that was great. You're not asking for enough if you're not asking for 10 million.
Wow. Well, I saw something one time that said that when they took an actual survey of people asking, how much money do you think you need to make to be able to breathe, to be a little more comfortable, to not be so concerned about your finances all the time? And across the board, it was twice as much.
Really?
It didn't matter how much they made. If the person made $10,000 a year, they thought they needed 20. If they made $500,000 a year, they thought they needed $1 million. It was like, it didn't matter where they were. They thought they needed about double to be comfortable. I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah. It shows just how important perspective is.
Yeah.
It really does.
So if you are reading along with us and you are in the paperback version, we're on page 35. This subtitle is The Law of Attraction Adds Power to Thoughts. And this is a topic that it really intrigues me. So I was excited when I got here to this page.
Good.
Often, when experiencing an unwanted situation, you feel a need to explain why it has happened, in an attempt, perhaps, to justify why you are in the situation. Whenever you are defending or justifying or rationalizing or blaming anything or anyone, you remain in a place of negative attraction. This sounds like your Facebook conversation, Walt.
Yes. Well, not just my Facebook conversation. It sounds like much of my thought processes. I mean, that's alarming, really, when I think about it.
Really, I just want to read it again. Often when experiencing an unwanted situation, you feel a need to explain why it has happened, in an attempt, perhaps, to justify why you are in the situation. And then in italics, whenever you are defending or justifying or rationalizing or blaming anything or anyone, you remain in a place of negative attraction. Wow. I mean, we could just close the book right now and say, okay, that's the lesson, right?
Well, halfway, but there's only one piece missing. I know that I justify. I know that I rationalize. All somebody has to do is ask me a money question, and instantly I'm in justifying and rationalizing mode. So hint to anybody who hasn't figured it out yet. Yeah, I'm still working on the money thing. All right. Well, that's great. Now what do I do with it? Because I need a new form of conversation.
Right. So every word you speak, as you explain why something is not the way you want it to be, continues the negative attraction. For you cannot be focused upon what you do want while you are explaining why you are experiencing something that you do not want. You cannot be focused upon negative aspects and positive aspects at the same time.
I can say that for a fact, because every time I'm reaching for a positive aspect, I find a negative aspect. That's why I keep saying, justifying, well, this is what our situation has been, and, and I'm not in a positive frame of mind there, that's for sure.
Yeah, and why it still doesn't feel better, until we get there.
Yep.
Often, in an effort to determine where your trouble started, you hold yourself in that negative attraction longer. What is the source of my trouble?
Yes.
What is the reason that I'm not where I want to be?
Oh, yeah.
It is natural that you want improvement in your experience, and therefore it's logical that you are solution oriented. But there's a big difference between seriously looking for a solution and justifying the need for a solution by emphasizing the problem. So this is interesting because that's a little subtle as well,
Very.
Right? Like, I don't want to be sick. I want to be well. Why? Because I don't want to be sick. That's sort of that's still here, is that looking for a solution and justifying the need for the solution by emphasizing the problem.
Very different feelings, actually. When you're seriously looking for the solution, it's not the same thing as justifying the solution by emphasizing the problem. It's an entirely different feeling, but the expression of it, like you're saying, is subtle. It seems like a subtle difference because it seems like both involves the solution, right? Well, if they both involve the solution, then they must be the same vibration. Well, not so much.
Right. And I think that it's like we still haven't gone the step further, like when I'm saying I don't want to feel bad, I want to feel better. But why? It's that right here, we're still in the emphasizing the problem. We haven't moved forward. This next section is completely in italics. The realization that something is not as you want it to be is an important first step. But once you've identified that, the faster you are able to turn your attention in the direction of a solution, the better. Because a continuing exploration of the problem will prevent you from finding the solution. The problem is a different vibrational frequency than the solution. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
As you become aware of the value of the process of pivoting, and you become adept at identifying what is not wanted and then immediately turning your attention toward what is wanted, you will realize that you are surrounded primarily by wonderful things. For there is so much more that is going right in your world than wrong. Also, a daily utilization of the Book of Positive Aspects will help you become more positively oriented. It will assist you in gradually tipping the balance of your thoughts more in the direction of what you do want. The more that you focus your attention with the intention of finding increasingly better feeling thoughts, the more you will realize that there is a very big difference between thinking about what you want and thinking about the absence of it. Whenever you are feeling uncomfortable as you are speaking or thinking about improving something you want, such as a better financial condition or an improved relationship or physical condition, you're in that moment preventing yourself from finding the improvement. The process of pivoting and the process of the Book of Positive Aspects are both being offered to assist you in recognizing in the early subtle stages of your creation that you are pulling on the very tips of that negative ball of twine so that you may right away release it and reach for the positive thread of thought. It is much easier to go from a thought of something that makes you feel a little better to an even better feeling thought, to an even better feeling thought, than to go directly to a wonderful feeling thought, because all thoughts or vibrations are affected by or managed by the law of attraction.
And that last bit there starts to answer the question I raised. Okay, I get it. I am still stuck in what are really negative self-talk situations, even though I'm trying to find that solution, but I keep talking about justifying, well, I haven't found it yet, and all that kind of stuff. So what do I do instead? They just said it. Now they're going to give us more details, I think, in the next section, but they said it. You go for a slightly better feeling thought, and then a slightly even better feeling thought, and then to an even better feeling thought. And that takes practice, but it works. That's the thing. Yeah. It does work. It works really well, actually. We just have to be willing to do it.
I love the way they use this idea of, you're pulling on the very tips of that negative ball of twine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So let go of it and reach for the positive thread. So this is what I was excited about getting to as well, is the next little section. The subtitle is, I'll begin my day with good feeling thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
When you are focused upon something that you really do not want, it is actually easier for you to remain focused on that unwanted topic, even finding other evidence to support that thought, than it is to move to a more positive perspective, because thoughts that are like unto themselves are drawn. So if you attempt to make
I just want to interrupt for a second, because I want to point out just how true that is. And the way I tend to describe it these days is that such thoughts, such negative thoughts that we tend to stick with more easily, they literally are sticky. They're so sticky that the moment we try to move away from them, all of a sudden we're just pulled right back. Like, what just happened? I was just moving for a positive thought, and boom, I'm right back here. How did that happen? It's that kind of an experience that I've been having lately. Just amazing how sticky they are. Now, obviously, it's not stickiness; it's vibration. But nevertheless, it's actually not so obvious. I had to be taught that by Abraham. But the fact is that it's vibration rather than stickiness, and yet it seems like stickiness. That's my point. It still seems sticky to me, and that's what I was saying earlier when I said it's not easy to take these steps to, to focus on slightly better thoughts. At least not initially. The good news is, well, first of all, I don't want to keep saying it's not easy. I want to start saying it's easy. But secondly, once I started doing it, it actually does become easier. I mean, that's one of the things I found with the mirror exercise, right? With the mirror exercise, every single day became a little bit easier, a little bit easier, a little bit easier. And I say that just to encourage somebody who feels discouraged before they get going, because that's where I would usually be. I'd usually be in the space of being discouraged before I even try it. It really does get easier.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it really does get easier when you start to do it regularly. You just have to be willing to do it. And
it makes me think about the way we say a train of thought. I mean, think about a train. All those cars are hooked together, one hooked after another. And as they come by, they're all coming and coming. And we've all experienced having a train of thought, and looking back and seeing how we ended up thinking about a certain thing. But that's what I see here too with these negative thoughts or positive thoughts. It's that they all kind of cluster together and they just keep on coming. Like, that's perfect the way you said they're sticky, because it's true. It's hard to shake them off.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see. But it's going to be easy. We're going to let it be easy.
Absolutely.
Right?
So from now on, we're committed to the idea that making these little positive shifts one at a time is easy.
It's easy. Easy peasy. That's my motto.
All right.
Okay. So if you attempt to make a big jump from a truly negative, unwanted topic immediately to a positive, delightful topic of something very much wanted, you will not be able to make the jump, for there's too much vibrational disparity between the two thoughts. A determination to gently, generally, and steadily lean more and more in the direction of wanted things is really the best way to approach your personal vibrational improvement.
So we're not trying to be the person who wins the high jump in track and field.
Right. Right. So when you first awaken in the morning after a few hours of sleep.
I know.
And therefore a vibrational detachment from unwanted things, you are in your most positive vibrational state. If you would begin your day, even before you get out of bed, by looking for a handful of positive aspects in your life, you will begin your day in a more positive vein, and the thoughts that the law of attraction will now provide as your springboard into each day will be much better feeling and beneficial. In other words, every morning you have an opportunity to establish another vibrational basis, a sort of set point that sets the general tone of your thoughts for the rest of the day. And while it is possible that some events of your day may deviate from that starting place, in time you will see that you've established complete control of your thoughts, your vibration, your point of attraction, your life. That's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In
Very
time
powerful.
you will see that you have established complete control of your thoughts, your vibration, your point of attraction, and your life. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about that first part. When you first awaken in the morning after a few hours of sleep. I mean, it's clear to me that they're in the non-physical.
I know. I was reading it and I was like, wait, what? A few hours? Well, unfortunately, I've had that experience far too often, is waking up after just a few hours of sleep.
Interestingly enough, though, Seth, Tom and I were looking at the Seth material, and Seth says the same thing. In fact, Seth apparently is more direct about it. Seth says, you guys spend way too much time sleeping. What you really should be doing is sleep a few hours, and you wake up at like 4 a.m., do some stuff, take a nap a few hours later, and then, after a couple hours, wake up and do some more stuff. It's a much better way to live. And I'm thinking, well, you're clearly non-physical too.
Right? So, it's funny. I had this friend, and when I met her, she had, I think, 3 children that were like high school age. It was when my boys were in high school. And she said something about, I got up around 3 a.m. and my daughter was reading this book. And I said, wait, said your daughter was up at 3 a.m? And she said, at any given time during the night, if you get up in our house, someone will be up doing something. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
It's just, I couldn't deal with it.
Well, especially this morning, because this morning, normally I wake up before the alarm I have set on my phone so that I can make sure I'm doing the podcast. And this morning that didn't happen. The alarm woke me up. And we were talking about this before we started the podcast this morning. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was groggy. It was like, whoa, what just happened? Because I was in the middle of that deep kind of sleep. And then to reinforce the idea that it was time for me to get up, my cat, who had been waiting outside the door, apparently, according to my wife, heard the alarm go off and then pounded into the door to make sure I was definitely awake.
That's your safety alarm.
It's a safety alarm.
Hey, time to go. Because the cat was noticing that.
That's right.
Up by now. What's going on?
So I guess my iPhone and my cat both agree I was sleeping too long.
That's so funny. So beginning the day with good feeling thoughts. And then this section is sleep time is realignment of energies time.
Wow. Okay.
While you are sleeping, or during the time that you are not consciously focused through your physical body, the attraction to this physical body stops. Sleep is a time when your inner being can realign your energies, and it is a time for refreshment and replenishment of your physical body. If, when you put yourself in your bed, you will say, tonight I will rest well. I know that all attraction to this body will stop, and when I awaken in the morning, I will literally reemerge back into my physical experience. You will receive the greatest benefit from your time of sleep.
I know that's true, by the way. The way I know that's true is I know it's true because one of the workshops, Abraham did like a 9-minute rampage of what you should do to say to yourself as you go to sleep and when you wake up in the morning. And I play that for myself every night and every morning. And when I play it for myself at night, there actually sometimes I sometimes forget to do it, and I don't get to sleep very well. As soon as I do it on the nights that I do remember to do it, I fall right asleep. I sleep really well, and when I wake up the next morning, I'm feeling great, and then I play it again, and it just reinforces it.
Well, I'm going to veer way away from this, but just because of a conversation that we had when we were going over some of the work of Neville Goddard.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Neville Goddard was saying that now, and we said, oh, that's different than Abraham Hicks, but I don't think it really is now that I think about it, because what Neville says is that last thought, actually the last sense of who you are, your identity, that's like planting the seed for the whole time that you're asleep. And that, it makes me think about actual seeds. Seeds seem to be asleep, right? I mean, they're just laying there. When we can have a seed in an envelope for years and it's not doing anything.
Yeah, true.
Right. And so it's like the same with this. It's not attracting anything. It says the attraction to the physical body stops, but they are making sure that when you go to sleep, you are putting a certain idea in your mind, right? Mm-hmm. Tonight I will rest well. I know that all attraction to this body will stop. And when I awaken in the morning, I will literally reemerge back into my physical experience. So to me, it's like they're setting themselves up, and maybe it's not so different.
No, I think it's actually similar, because clearly that's what I'm doing with the 9-minute rampage. I play it before I go to sleep, and I sleep quicker and better.
So it says awakening in the morning is not so different from being born. It is not so different from the day you first emerged into your physical body. So as you awaken, open your eyes and say, today I will look for reasons to feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I feel than that I choose thoughts that attract other thoughts, that attract other thoughts, that raise my vibrational frequency to the place where I can resonate with the positive aspects of the universe. Your vibration is right where you last left it. So if you lie in your bed worrying about a situation before you go to sleep, when you awaken, you will pick up right where your thoughts or vibration left off the night before. And then your thoughts for the day will get off on that negative footing. And then the law of attraction will continue to serve up for you other thoughts that are like those thoughts. But if you will make an effort as you go to sleep to identify some of the positive aspects of your life and then deliberately release your thoughts as you remember that during your slumber, you're going to detach and refresh. And then if when you awaken, you will open your eyes and say, today, I will look for reasons to feel good. You will begin to gain control of your thoughts and life. Rather than worrying about the problems of the world or thinking about the things that you have to do today, just lie in your bed and look for the positive aspects of the moment. How wonderful this bed feels. How comfortable the fabric feels. How good my body feels. How comfortable this pillow is. How refreshing the air is that I'm breathing. How good it is to be alive. You will have begun to pull on that positive, good feeling rope. The law of attraction is like a giant magnifying glass, amplifying whatever is. And so as you awaken and look for some reason, something very immediate to you to feel good about, the law of attraction will then offer you another thought that feels like it, and then another, and then another. And that is really what we call getting out of bed on the right foot. With a little bit of effort and a desire to feel good, you can direct your thoughts to more and more pleasing scenarios until you will change your habits of thought as well as your point of attraction, and the evidence of your improvement in thoughts will begin to show up right away.
So there's a very promising process and very similar to what we were discussing a moment ago, what I was talking about in terms of what I do as I'm going to sleep and what I do when I wake up in the morning. It reinforces it. That's good.
And you know that idea of they say your vibration is right where you last left it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you lie in bed worrying about a situation before you go to sleep, when you awaken, you'll pick it right back up. And that's what reminded me of Neville saying, that Neville says that the thoughts in your mind, the ideas, the sense of identity you have, everything, your story, at that moment when you're falling into sleep is the most important thing, that you are in a good vibration at that point, that you're somewhere you want to be. And so I saw this, I thought, yep, there we go again with, that's really important. The falling asleep and the waking up.
By the way, I'm remembering something that Abraham said in a different context on the same subject. I don't remember where they said this, but they said when you wake up, you actually wake up instantly. At the very instant that you wake up, no seconds have elapsed, you are in your highest vibrational state. But what happens is the moment you become conscious, your conscious mind remembers what state you were at, and that's why it seems like you are instantly back in that state again. But there is actually a split second there. There's a little tiny split second where you're in the highest vibrational state, which means if we want to get the day going, boy, oh boy, do I now have more incentive to get myself into the highest positive state before I go to sleep, just so I can take advantage of that high positive state I get when I come out of sleep.
Right, because it's like totally supporting you at that point.
Right.
Because it's in alignment with where you've intended. Right. Cool.
Yeah.
So the next section, an example of a positive aspects bedtime process. Maybe this is going to be your rampage. Well,
Yeah.
Your action orientation in life causes you to believe that it takes hard work to make things happen. But as you learn to deliberately direct your thoughts, you will discover that there is tremendous leverage and power in thought.
Fortunately, we've already agreed that from now on, it's always easy. So we've left out.
It's always easy, right. As you focus more consistently only in the direction of what you desire, rather than diluting the power of your thought by thinking of the wanted and then the unwanted, you will understand from your personal experience what we mean. Because of your action orientation, you often try too hard and work too hard. And as a result of that, most of you bring yourselves more to the attention of what is wrong or more to the attention of what needs to be fixed than you do to the attention of what you desire. Here's a good way to apply the process of positive aspects at bedtime. Once you're in your bed, try to recall some of the most pleasant things that happened during the day. Since many things have undoubtedly happened during this day, you may have to ponder for a little while, and you may remember some less than pleasant things that happened. But stick to your intention of finding something pleasing, and when you find it, ponder it.
I want to interrupt there, too, because this is actually something Louise and I developed many years ago, not realizing that it tied in directly to this section of the book.
Is this the 3 good things?
The 3 good things, that's right. Yeah. And it is true, exactly what they said here, that you may have to ponder for a little while, and you remember some less than pleasant things, but if you stick to the intention of finding the pleasing ones, and when you find it, pondering it, that actually does make a difference. The biggest difference I found that 3 good things makes is that when I do remember a good thing that happened, and then kind of focus on it for a while and stick with it and just, basically trying to remember all the details of it. I don't allow myself to just remember this is what the topic was. I actually try to remember what happened when that good thing happened. Depending what the good thing is, it could be really simple too. It can be almost anything. So we had a good meal. Well, what was the good meal? Well, let's see. Yeah, we had steak, and we had au gratin potatoes, and we had broccoli that was cooked to perfection. And now I'm starting to remember the flavors, and how it tasted, and reliving it. And that process of reliving it not only makes that memory alive again, a memory that I was kind of in danger of forgetting because I had forgotten it, but it also encourages me to find the next positive aspect of what happened in the day. It gets you into that positive train that you were talking about. The train starts coming out of the station. That's what I found.
Mm-hmm. So here's a good way to apply the process of positive aspects at bedtime. Once you're in bed, try to recall some of the most pleasant things that happened during the day. Oops, I think I'm rereading. Since many of things have undoubtedly happened during this day, you may have to ponder for a little while, and you may remember some less than pleasant things that happened, but stick to your intention of finding something pleasing, and when you find it, ponder it.
Exactly.
Prime your positive pump by saying things such as, the thing I liked about that was, my favorite part of that was, and follow any positive thread that you find, thinking about the best parts of your day, and then once you are feeling the effect of your positive thoughts, focus on your dominant intention right now, getting a good night's sleep and awakening refreshed in the morning.
Right. That's the purpose.
Say to yourself, I'm going to sleep now. And while I'm sleeping, because my thoughts will be inactive, attraction will stop, and my physical body will be completely refreshed at every level. Turn your attention to find the immediate things around you, like the comfort of your bed, the softness of your pillow, the well-being of your moment. And then softly set forth the intention, I will sleep well, and I will awaken refreshed with another new, good feeling, positive point of attraction, and then off to sleep. So they're actually encouraging you to remember some positive things, and then once you're pondering them and feeling in that good feeling spot, that's the spot. They're like, yes. Okay, you're there now. Say, I'm going to sleep now.
Yeah, right. And it's amazing how that works. I mean, it sounds kind of silly, like, well, I'm going to go to sleep now, and then we have all this vision of us, wide awake, starry-eyed, like I can't close my eyes kind of a routine. But that's not what actually happens. It doesn't. It actually does happen that when you get yourself into that frame of mind, just the way described, and then you say, I'm going to sleep now, it's amazing. 9 times out of 10, within 5 seconds, I've lost consciousness.
Awesome.
It really is true. It does work. But if I don't do it, oh, good luck.
So that's the positive aspects bedtime process. And then coming up now, we've got an example of a positive aspects morning process. So This is the flip side. As you awaken the next morning, you will be in that positive, good feeling place. And your first thoughts will be something like, I'm awake. I have reemerged back into the physical. Lie there for a little while and bask in the comfort of your bed. And then offer a thought such as, today, no matter where I'm going, no matter what I am doing, no matter who I'm doing it with, it is my dominant intent to look for things that feel good. When I feel good, I am vibrating with my higher power. When I feel good, I am in harmony with that which I consider to be good. When I feel good, I am in the mode of attracting that which will please me once it gets here. And when I feel good, I feel good. It is good just to feel good if the only thing it ever brought to you is the way you feel in the moment. But it brings ever so much more beyond that. We would lie in the bed for 2 or 3 minutes. That is enough. and we would look for the positive aspects of our surroundings. And then as we move into the day, we would begin to acknowledge more positive aspects, looking for reasons to feel good no matter what the object of our attention is. In the first moment of any negative emotion, which very likely will occur even though you have begun your day looking for reasons to feel good, because there is, upon some subjects, some negative momentum already in motion. Upon the first inclination of any negative emotion, we would stop and say, I want to feel good. I'm feeling some negative emotion, which means that I'm focused upon something I do not want. What is it that I want? And we would turn our attention immediately to that which we want, staying focused upon the new thought or the positive thought long enough that we would feel the positive energy again beginning to flow through our apparatus. As you move through your day, look for more reasons to laugh and more reasons to have fun. When you want to feel good, you do not take things so seriously. And when you are not taking things so seriously, you are not as likely to notice the lack of things wanted. And when you're not focusing upon the lack of what you desire, you feel better. And when you feel better, you attract more of what you do want. And your life just gets better and better. And then that night, as you lie in your bed, you will have many wonderful things to ponder as you drift off to your restful, refreshing sleep. And then you will awaken into an even better feeling new day tomorrow.
It's funny, too, as you were reading that, and that's such a wonderful section. I think that's why it was acute in my mind, something that was my reaction the first time I read this book. And it's the way I often read these kinds of books. I don't do it with Abraham anymore. I've learned my lesson where Abraham is concerned. But the way I used to read these books was I would read a section like that. I'd say, well, that's interesting. You know, that kind of makes sense. And that's as far as I went with it. I just said, okay, I got it. Yep, that makes sense. And I didn't implement it.
Yeah, putting it into practice is so important.
Yeah.
It doesn't work if we don't practice it.
It doesn't. No. And I was just realizing that as you were reading that again, I said, my God, that's one of the times I did exactly the wrong thing. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was absorbing this good information and so forth, but I didn't use it. What's the point? You got to use it. Otherwise it doesn't help. Yeah.
I have a habit of the second I wake up, I ask myself, when I realize I'm awake, I ask myself, how do I want to feel today? What kind of a day do I want this to be? And what would I like to accomplish? And I set those intentions in the first couple of minutes that I wake up. But I'm laughing that they said we would lie in bed for 2 or 3 minutes. And then in parentheses, it says that is enough.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, you sleep for 3 hours.
Oh, it's easy to be non-physical.
I keep feeling like, yeah, I think I need a little more time than that. But in truth, those thoughts that I have become, I don't know how long I've done that for. It seems like forever, but it really is a habit. And that's what I think is so important about these two sections about a falling asleep, kind of ritual and a waking up practice, is that once you start doing those things, they will become a habit. And they won't be difficult. You'll just automatically, that's where your mind will go. The falling asleep one, it's interesting hearing you talk about thinking of what was good in the day and the 3 good things and pondering, because I had a practice where I would walk myself after my eyes were closed, right before I fell asleep. I would walk myself through my 5 senses and something that I enjoyed during the day.
No kidding. Because Louise just started doing it.
Heard, something that I smelled, something I tasted, something I felt, and recognizing that bringing in those sensations of our 5 senses were so powerful. And
Louise just started doing that. She just started keeping a notebook. In fact, every day she's now trying to come up with a new way to represent each of the 5 senses, and then writing it down in the notebook to make sure that it's something that she's not going to repeat. She's trying to come up with something new every single day.
And that's what I did, because the first few days that I did it, I was the same thing. Ooh, I love the smell of the coffee in the morning and my soft furry puppy, and I love the taste of chocolate. And after about 3 days, I was like, okay, I need to come up with new things. And
Been there, done that.
Yeah, what happens is that your reticular activation will kick in to help you, and suddenly going through your day, you'll start noticing things. So you'll taste something. Oh, this can be on my list for the good thing I tasted. And it really does work to bring you into the present moment, which is where all your power is. And also to keep you focused on looking for positive aspects of things. So she's going to really love it. It's a great exercise.
Well, she's loving it already. One of the things that she found after doing it for, 5 or 6 days, something like that, was she started finding new things and saying to herself, well, why didn't I think of that one? That's a great one.
Now that she's focused there, it'll be easy. They'll just show up.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the morning ritual. So, if it's something you haven't done before and you're listening, just try it, because eventually, like, it's so funny to me that I wake up in the morning and it literally is the first thing I think of is, what kind of day do I want to have? How do I want to feel today? What would I like to accomplish? I'm not waking up and seeing that I've written a note to myself to remind myself. It's just the first thought in my mind when I wake up. I think that's kind of cool.
That is cool. That's very good.
Our brains are amazing.
Aren't they? I continue to be just aghast and amazed, both at the same time. I'm aghast at all the different ways that I continue to stream negative thoughts and how that just seems to never go away. And then I'm just amazed at how, when I do things like the mirror work, they start to fade. It's like, wow, it's really powerful in both directions.
Yeah, truly it is. And the thing is that we can do certain things that will direct that, like you're doing your mirror work, and you had said that the negative thoughts are at like half volume, and that was like a week ago. So I'm not sure how you are now. Might be even better.
It's getting even better. I have something to report though. I found a new way to do the mirror work. Like if I forget to do it first thing in the morning, which I usually don't do, I normally remember it. But if for some reason I forget and I'm nowhere near a mirror, smartphones are great for it because they have the way to take a selfie.
Oh,
you can use the selfie camera and talk to yourself into the selfie camera.
There you go.
And when I discovered that, I said, whoa, this is great. Now I don't have any excuse ever again not to do it, because the moment I've remembered it, even if I'm not at home with a mirror, I can still do it.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
I'm glad you did, because the mirror work has had a new life over here. It's like I hadn't thought about it in so long, and now I'm excited about your progress. And telling clients about it, I'm saying, well, look, this is what my co-host is doing.
Yeah, right.
Because it was working and it got you excited. So it got me excited. And I was discovering it anew over here. So awesome.
Yeah. And I recommend the smartphone as the backup. I recommend doing the mirror as the main one rather than using the smartphone all the time, just because smartphones don't have the perfect lens. They have that fisheye type lens, so it tends to distort the features on your face and so forth. So that might make it even more uncomfortable. But it's a great fill-in when you don't have a mirror handy. Mirrors are a little bit better because they're more straightforward.
And we usually use one at least once a day, right? We're washing our face, brushing our teeth, whatever. So
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, even in my case, the mirror in the bathroom is actually below my eye height because I'm so tall. But Louise was very kind. She put up a special mirror for me here in the office right next to the door at my height. So I still have a mirror that I can look in every day. Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah. It's nice to feel loved,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I agree.
And, we just ran out of time, didn't we? Well, then I guess we have to draw it to a close. Cindie, it's been great. I feel sad because now we have to wait another week, but I feel glad we're going to do it in another week. That's good.
Well, it's not a whole week. It's just till next Tuesday.
That's right. It's only 6 days. That's good. So I look forward to talking to you next Tuesday.
Yep, I do too. And I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
I will do the same if you will. And also, of course, we get to continue to do the shows without you. That's the only sad part. We want you to be around more often. But at least you're around twice a week, so that's good. So we want to invite everybody else back for not only this afternoon's podcast, but all the rest of the podcasts this week, because we do them for you. And we'll see you next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.